All right, folks, welcome back. All right. Every 2 weeks, that's what we said. So we're here. All right. This is going to be a
Right
little bit of a
here.
smaller, more condensed situation, what we got going on. All right. We're on the clock. We're going to be chatting about a little bit of a holiday themed situation here, right? Who's got the real mask and who's wearing fake masks? All right. Who's actually Batman and who's just wearing the costume? Okay. So, in the sense of Halloween, Jason and I here are going to be talking about three players each, and we're going to be saying, hey, is their stats, is their situation real or is it fake? Are they putting up things that we expect them to do for the rest of the season, or is this kind of drawn out of proportion? All right. So, Jason, why don't you start us off? Thanks for being with me, buddy. Who do you
Yeah,
got to start off this fake or real mask situation?
absolutely. Let's do it. So, a big name that I'm kind of very interested in is Tyrone Tracy. Last 2 weeks, he's definitely been very big in the whole fantasy landscape. Devin Singletary, who is injured, I believe he actually has not been placed on that IR, but he's been out for 2 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
You would obviously know that as a Giants fan, but Tyrone Tracy is super interesting player to kind of be looking into. He is a rookie. Do you know what round he got drafted in? Because honestly, I'm not
Believe
really
he was a
sure. I want to say
fourth
fourth
round
rounder.
rookie
I
pick.
also want to say fourth rounder. But if you watched Hard Knocks, they were also super into Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And you love his size. 5'11", 210 pounds. That is the size of a running back that you want. Anything that really does get lower than 200, things start getting really sketchy. Obviously, you have injuries and their bodies, you can get beat up. But if you look at his last 2 weeks where he was able to be starter, 18 carries for 129 against the Bengals, 17 for 50. Obviously, the efficiency went down a little bit. That's only 2.9 yards per carry, which kind of stinks. But the positive thing, if you were watching that Giants game, you know he was getting targeted. So he had 6 targets, 6 receptions for 57 yards.
Yep.
That's something that you're looking from a running back. And he looks good running the ball as well. He looks solid also receiving. He looks like he has nice hands. So that's someone that you kind of want to move forward with. And especially with Dynasty. I think I don't know how long Devin Singletary's actual contract is for, but Tyrone Tracy can be someone that, you could a very sneaky buy. I don't know what he would really be going for. I'm assuming a lot of people would really want a second for him, honestly. But if
Hmm.
someone that you're confident in, and you are contending, that mid late second is a price that I would probably pay. But you need to be doing that. You need to be committed to it. The Giants are a team who have been better, honestly, than most
Hmm.
people expected. So they're definitely not going to want to be going out and buying a running back when they have other things to kind of fill up. But realistically, their defense looks good, and I think it's really just the offensive playmakers. But I think they're going to probably want to add a little bit more of those in regards to the wide receiver type of portion. Maybe an upgrade at quarterback. We'll see. But that's kind of where I kind of lean. But I think Tyrone Tracy is a real mask, and that's someone who I would definitely be buying. In my current situation.
Batman.
Yeah, I love him.
Hey, I like everything you said. I agree. I think he's a real mask. I think Singletary is in danger. This injury's given the rookie an opportunity to show off what he's got. I think he's shown it off. I think he's earned more attempts even when Singletary returns. And
Yeah.
I do think that Singletary's always been a quality running back in the NFL. He's not a freak. He's not going to, change the way of the game. And I'm not saying that Tyrone Tracy is quite there yet, but he's definitely shown more explosive ability than Singletary. And the fact that he also can catch definitely is not good for Singletary because that's kind of, Singletary's known for being able to do it all,
Yep.
right? Well, now we have another guy who can do it all, and guess what? He's younger and faster. So I agree. I think he is Batman. I don't think he's an imposter, and I think that's a great pick. My first pick here, all right, is going to be DeAndre Swift. Okay, he's wearing a mask right now, but I don't think he's really a superhero. All right. I don't think he's really a superhero. If you look at DeAndre Swift, you look at his efficiency ratings, even his entire career, he hasn't been particularly good with efficiency. All right. We know that he can be in space. We know that he can catch the ball. We know he's been used as a Swiss Army knife his entire career. But I got to say this, if you look at the competition that the Chicago Bears have faced for these first 6 weeks of the season, when he's played the harder running teams, he has not been that well. But now he's gone against three in a row of the worst run defense teams in the league. All right. So if you go back, you look at his schedule and you look at pass defense, run defense, he's gone against literally the 31st, the 30th, and the 29th. These are, of the bottom four run defense teams in the league. All right. He's been getting away with magic, getting away with magic. It's not going to last forever. His schedule moving forward, a lot more difficult, a lot more difficult. And his body type is not the type to tote the rock and take on what he's about to face. Who's actually probably more built for that is Roschon Johnson. So I think that the committee backfield that's already set up in Chicago is actually going to start coming through. I think you're going to see Swift's efficiency drop even further. It's not that great right now, but it's getting you points. But it's going to drop even further, not only because, again, I don't think he's the athlete everyone wants him to be, but also because the timeshare is going to grow. All right. And yeah, he's just not Batman.
I
He's
guess
not the real
I
superhero.
guess so to play devil's advocate here, I have DeAndre Swift in two leagues and he's
Go ahead.
honestly been hooking me up. Um uh, but if you look at Roschon Johnson, he's like not getting more carries. They are putting him in more in the red zone, but then they even in the London game, they gave Swift a red zone touch, I think just to see if he could do it, and he did end up pulling it off, which was a good
Mm-hmm.
boost for Swift. My thing with Roschon Johnson, obviously he's getting those red zone touches, but he's going to be completely touchdown dependent. But he hasn't taken away any of DeAndre Swift's like carries that people thought he was going to do.
Yeah.
So
And I
I don't
I
know.
personally I see that. That's why the mask is there. Like people are like, whoa, this guy's gonna do it. He's doing it, right? This is the character we thought he was. But I have a very strong feeling that moving forward, the defenses are only going to get more difficult and they're going to need more of a bruising style back. I'm not going after um Roshan. I'm not going after Roshan. I'm just saying the scheme, the game plan is going to change. And the coaches knew that they could get away with Swift and his agility and his speed because they're going against bad run teams. And they paid all this money to bring him in. And they're trying to show ownership that they're not fools. Well, guess what? They showed ownership that they're not fools with drafting Caleb Williams. So put it in the air. Stop being inefficient. All right. And yeah, anybody can be good with volume. And
For
Swift
sure.
has been getting more volume than he normally does. I
He's
don't
been
think
getting
that
the
that will
volume.
continue as they go against stronger defenses.
I will. So, if we're to fact check some things here, they did so the last three games, Rams, Panthers, Jaguars. Panthers are 31st against the run.
Yeah.
Jaguars, surprisingly, 13th against the run, and the Rams are 20th. So you are kind of going towards this bottom half.
Wait a second.
Um,
Jacksonville was 13th.
13th against the rush.
Hmm. Maybe I'm dyslexic and I
That's
created
that's
31 in my head. But the
but
Ram, are you?
but
That's
regardless,
amazing though, because Jacksonville has been given a crap ton on the ground.
so Jacksonville is passing there 32.
Hmm. All right. Well,
But I mean, hey, it's DeAndre Swift is an interesting name.
yeah.
And I'm not going to disagree with you that his mask might be fake, but I'm all in on DeAndre Swift because he's on my team.
Well,
So
that's a good fact check. Defend your boy, right? Go ahead.
exactly.
Hit us with your second, Jay.
Yeah, yeah. So my second one is going to be Romeo Dobbs. So everybody knows what happened with him. Last week he got suspended, didn't go to practice, upset about his role in the Packers. But this was a wide receiver group that we were honestly still very confused about coming into the season. A lot of mouths to feed. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs. Um, there's some other people there that I'm kind of forgetting. Wicks, who, he kind
Yeah.
of broke out about 2 weeks ago, but people were also still expecting him to be a part of this whole receiving group. Romeo Dobbs was complaining that he wasn't getting enough touches, not really being utilized in the offense. Comes out this week and scores two touchdowns. My problem with the whole two touchdowns thing, four targets, three receptions for 49 yards. That just really does not fly with me. It looks like he's very touchdown dependent, but he was doing pretty much the same exact thing last year as well. if you look at his stats and you look at his time when he is going to be in 2013, when he scored a touchdown, these are the amount of receptions he had. Four receptions, five receptions, two receptions, four receptions, three receptions, five receptions, four receptions. Romeo Dobbs is someone who is touchdown dependent. Very much a
Mm,
flex player, I would say, but he's not even a flex player that is going to win you the week. He's someone you're just like, I'm hoping he gets that 10. Everyone's always looking for those double digits. I really do think that Jaden Reed is the guy to have in this offense. They are
hmm
looking to force him the ball. They are utilizing him in the actual offensive scheme. Romeo Dobbs, I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I just feel like he is essentially a role player, and he just happened to get lucky to get two touchdowns. If he doesn't get those two touchdowns, he ends his week with 7.9 points if you're playing full PPR. So
Yeah.
I don't know. He's just not someone who I've been a fan of at all, honestly, since entering the league. He is someone who you wish he is what people are hoping that he turned out to be Jaden Reed, but Jaden Reed's a completely different player, obviously. What I mean by that is like Jaden Reed is the wide receiver one for the Packers, and he will continue to be the wide receiver for the Packers. Romeo
Yeah.
Dobbs, I don't think he's ever going to get to that level. So for me,
hmm
Romeo Dobbs is fake, and I just don't really see that changing. I know there's a lot of talk in like camp that, they had a connection, him and Jordan Love and things like that. The playoffs, he did really well. I believe he was like the most targeted players and had the most yards in the playoffs, but to me, that still doesn't really state anything. I'm just not in the camp of having Romeo Dobbs. So I don't have him anywhere besides my redraft league, which I guess I'll keep him in. But besides that, he's not someone I'd be willing to really buy at all, to be honest.
Yeah. Barring the injury to Wicks, I was very hopeful that Wicks would really take that number two role, keep it, kind of push, Watson out of the fold a little bit. But now that he's injured, the lack of consistency. So I think having someone in the Green Bay offense is just a good thing to have. But the truth is, it's like Reed, Jacobs, and Love. Like those are going to be the consistent pieces. We're kind of looking at, I don't want to call it a San Francisco-esque because they're definitely built much different. They're built for the run, and then everyone else becomes a piece of that. Where Green Bay's built for the pass, and then Love is just doing such a good job of like finding the open man. Like Love is extremely talented. I am a big fan of what he's doing. I think he's a massive competitor. Like when he makes his errors and he throws his interceptions and he does those kind of silly throws, that's just his competitive nature. Like he's got to hone in his competitive nature and not put his team at risk, even though he wants to win the moment.
Well,
But
he's
man,
still
like
kind of
he's
young
first,
as
second,
well,
third, fourth read. He's finding the open man. And that's where, you want a piece of this Green Bay offense because you never know when Dobbs is going to score two, when Wicks is going to score two, when Watson's going to get an 87-yard touchdown pass. So it's nice to have that in your flex role. But like you're saying, it's a Reed offense, it's a Jacob offense, it's a Love offense, and then the other pieces just kind of get their moments, including Kraft. Kraft and any of the tight ends that get on the field. Again, great flip of a coin plays if you're in need of a flex or in need of a backup. But I definitely agree. I definitely agree. All right, my second that will be Mr. Terry McLaurin. For years and years and years, we've seen the talent of this guy. We know that he's capable of performing on the NFL stage. And year after year after year, we're saying this will be the quarterback. This will be the quarterback. This will be the guy that brings him there. Well, now we see it. Now we see a rookie quarterback who's playing at an MVP level. Um,
literally.
Maybe not primarily from the throw because of his rushing ability, but man, he's still throwing really, really well. Definitely more than the average rookie, even in his own draft class of great rookie quarterbacks. So this is it, man. He's now Terry McLaurin with the proper guy to get him the ball, and all that talent that we've seen for years has been validated. I don't think this is changing throughout the season. There's a world where like he's not as efficient as he's been thus far, but it's not going to drop off. We're talking 5 to 10% fluctuation up and down for the remainder of the year, but within this bracket of where he's been, this is what Terry McLaurin is going to be. All right. Um, this connection that they've clearly generated between the QB and wide receiver. It doesn't get much better than this. And we all know that rookies tend to lean on somebody, and it looks like Terry is going to be that guy uh, in Washington. So he's the real deal. He's a real superhero. He's not an imposter on the street. Terry McLaurin is my second, who's
Yeah.
wearing a real mask.
Terry's the guy. If you look at the Washington offense in regards to targets, 43. The next closest wide receiver has 21, which is Zacchaeus. And I
Yeah,
don't know if Zacchaeus has
a
ever.
name that you're not even ready for.
I mean, exactly. Like if you had to ask anybody who even like a general NFL fan, you're like, who's the number two targeted wide receiver on the Washington Commanders? No one is telling you Zacchaeus.
No,
And he's at 21. Terry McLaurin has doubled him in
I'm
targets.
surprised it's not like Eckler. I know Eckler's had a couple injuries here and there, but like he's been getting the dump off passes
Well,
like a champ.
well, we're looking at wide receivers. So
Oh, all right.
if we do incorporate running backs, let's see what Mr. Eckler has here, honestly. Eckler only has 16. So,
Oh wow, I thought it was more, but that's probably because he missed a couple games here and there.
yeah, true,
But like
true.
that conference, right? The Eagles, the Giants, the Cowboys, and the number one seed at the moment, the Washington Commanders. Well, I almost did it.
You did.
Washington Commanders. Um, that conference is like so up in the air right now. I mean, I know my Giants are at the bottom of it, but they're not playing bad football. They just are not finishing winnable
Yeah.
games, which
The
really
Giants have
sucks.
never gone blown out like the Cowboys have now 3 weeks in a row.
Now, you can argue the level of competition, right? But the Giants have not played bad competition. I'm very eager to see. I'm pretty sure it's Giants Cowboys this week.
Yes.
Um, but I'm very eager to see how these teams begin to interact as the season goes on because a lot of these games are backloaded. This conference just always does that. So it's going to be really interesting. And I don't necessarily think that the conference is going to make it harder on Terry McLaurin. I mean, the Giants have a good defense, but not like amazing DBs. And the
Yeah.
Cowboys, who have had an amazing defense in the past, they're plagued with injury and their star players aren't really playing the way that they normally have. As the
Yep.
season goes on, maybe they change that. But right now, it's not looking great. And the Eagles have the best defense of the in conference rivals. And the Eagles haven't been playing that great. So I don't really see anything stopping this connection. I really
Yeah,
don't.
for sure. I'm all in. And he's
Yeah.
definitely a good buy if you're like a contender.
How old
And
is Terry right now? Is he 28?
ooh, let's take a look how old Terry
I
is.
don't. He might be
But
29, but I don't. Oh, is he 30?
no way. No way he's 30. He's 29. So he's gonna
29. Okay.
either turn 29 or he's turning 30. So
I mean, I don't. A really good question would be like how many years are remaining on his contract because he would be a good buy in Dynasty if he's got at least one more year after this.
I mean,
Because if you can
regardless,
say 2 years of the number
even
one with a quarterback who's performing at this level,
even more of a
I'll
buy
buy that any
if
day of the
his
week.
contract ends, honestly, because
Say
you're
what?
honestly even more of a buy if his contract ends. You know, he's a rental, and you gotta if you can get that owner to think that Terry McLaurin's not gonna be on the Commanders next year, boom.
Well, I think
All about
I
the speed.
believe I could be wrong. I think he's got one more year on his current contract, which, in my opinion, if I'm an older um, a team with an older base and I'm in that competition mode, that competitive mode, I'm going to go try to actively buy Terry McLaurin with some of my younger assets because someone, unless he's on a competitive team, sometimes I don't, not many
Terry
people have Terry
McLaurin,
McLaurin on a competitive team because of, his
exactly.
career.
Terry
But
McLaurin has one more
if you
year
can
on his
add him
contract.
to a competitive roster for a 2 year window, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, if you're in a competitive roster and you can add anybody with a 2 or 3 year window, in their late 20s, early 30s that are going to play football for at least 2 more years. I mean, that's just how you just keep the streak alive. You just keep
Yeah,
drawing in
exactly.
a couple of years, a couple of years. If you can draw in a 2 year, 3 year player every year, then guess what? You're never going to cume out, right? You only
Yeah,
cume out when you're not making moves. So, yeah, like you said, you're all in. I'm all in.
yeah, he's a good buy for sure.
Yeah.
All right, my next one is going to be the new quarterback for the New England Patriots. Kind of happened a lot sooner than we thought it was going to be, but Drake May came out, and he showed up. So If you look at his stats from last week, 243 yards, 20 completions, 3 touchdowns. He did have those 2 picks. Some of them were ugly, but that's okay. He had 5 rushes for 38 yards. The thing that I kind of want to point out here automatically is just like how much more better that he is than Jacoby Brissett in this offense. Jacoby Brissett did not even hit 200 yards passing at
once.
all
Yeah.
once in his 5 games. Drake
Yeah.
May comes out, does it the first game. And you even saw that. He had two long touchdowns. And
Yeah.
that's essentially what this New England offense needed. You needed
Yeah.
the breakout plays. You needed to be able to also send it. Demario Douglas has his game last week was also incredible. He's going to be that reception guy. He's going to be that safety blanket. This team didn't even have Ramondre Stevenson last week, and Antonio
Yeah.
Gibson did not do anything. Literally nothing. So
He's
just to get
not the
out.
he's not the workhorse. He's the scat back.
He's never going to be the guy. He
Yeah.
really never be. But enter Ramondre Stevenson in this offense. Like, I think this, while the Patriots are still probably going to be bad, but the Patriots are always competitive and they will continue to always be competitive. That is who they are. But a lot of people were nervous starting him. Once again, he did have 2 picks, but he's a rookie. This is his first game. But he also had 3 passing touchdowns. He was the QB 10 already his week 1 of fantasy. So 5 rushes, 38 yards. That's going to continue. Everybody knew he had this rushing upside as well. Drake May is looking good, honestly, and he's someone who that it's a real mask for me. Obviously, there's going to be some times where you're going to be starting him this season where it's going to be like, ugh, like he did not give me enough points, but. This is someone who I would really consider in buying, especially if you're kind of being rebuilding. I think obviously his price is going to be a little bit high. But if you can kind of trade some flex pieces, some older wide receivers for his quarterback, I think that's something that I would really consider. I wouldn't say I wouldn't really be sending a lot of first for him. I would really be trying to trade some other complement pieces to maybe a team that does need some more wide receivers, running backs and things like that. So Drake May is the guy for me. He proved it in week 1.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I thought I was under I don't know why I'm looking it up right now and I wasn't finding it as fast as I wanted to. But today is the 16th. So who's the Patriots next game? I don't know what schedule I'm looking at, but this can't be right.
They're playing in London. They're a London game.
Tomorrow's Thursday. Is the Thursday game in London?
No, no, no. They're playing on Sunday. Jags
I don't know why.
Patriots.
Again, you
The
might need to look it up because I'm looking right now and it says November 17th, 1 p.m. Patriots versus Rams. And
no,
that's why I'm freaking out because I don't think that that's accurate.
that is very inaccurate. But they do face the Rams in week 11.
What the heck? Oh, duh, because I'm in November. I'm a dummy. It's
Yeah,
the second time I've done that this week.
it's okay. Not everybody can be as useful with the internet as me.
All right. But from what I remember, just looking earlier, um,
Rough. I think you're going to say some rough defenses. Definitely. Jets week 8, Titans week 9, Chicago week 10, Rams week 11. But that's not really tough. But it gets easier. He's going to have a rough
that's what
schedule.
I'm saying. I think that they're in this bubble where like it's not the worst teams in the world, but it's also not the best teams in the world. Like
The Jets,
these are
Titans, and
decent
Chicago.
defenses, like
Yes.
above half, above the middle of the pack defenses that he's going to go against for the next couple weeks. But I think his schedule gets a lot easier as as you go towards the end of the season.
It
So
does.
yes, earlier than what we expected, but I don't think it's a bad time to rotate him in. I think we talked about this on an earlier episode that like, hey, they're saving him. They're trying to save him and make sure he doesn't get hurt behind this awful offensive line.
But
But
he has
it just got
mobility.
too bad.
But he has mobility, so he can
Yeah,
like, obviously he got sacked. Like if you're watching the game, I don't know how many sacks happened, but he obviously was hit. I
yeah.
couldn't really give you the number, but he was on the ground. But that's gonna happen, and it's
But I
okay.
love it. I love it. You think he's a real mask. You think he's a real superhero. I mean, this guy's going out for Halloween and he's going to get me all the candy. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, we're hoping more candy next year, but he's gonna get you some candy this year for
Just
sure.
give him just a little bit of candy. He's a good bye week guy for the
Yeah,
candy. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So, all right. That was your last one. I think you got a good group of three there. My final, all right. So we had a fake mask, a true mask. We've got one more true mask, and this is your man Amari Cooper. All right. If you look at Amari Cooper's stat line this year, the guy is a freak. he just gets open. He's so good. He's always been good. This guy is like someone who like this is why I love football. He keeps his mouth shut. He deals with what he has to deal with. Yeah, maybe this year he said, "Hey guys, like listen, Deshaun's not the deal. Can you trade me?" Like maybe that's what
Did
happened.
he
I don't
even say that though? Like, but you're
I'm
right.
I'm just I'm making an assumption
That's an
behind the
excellent point.
scenes.
There has been absolutely nothing
Yeah.
about him. Obviously,
Yeah.
everybody knows that he's been a trade target, but that's because he's
Yeah.
Amari Cooper. Like, is he going to
Yeah.
stay with the Browns and just let the rest of his
The
career?
guy is not a diva. He barely said a word when the Cowboys absolutely screwed him and like let him go. That the Cowboys are fools. They should have paid him that year and added CeeDee Lamb. I mean, imagine those two for the last 3 or 4 years.
Together.
Absolute chaos. I mean, they did what they did, and Jerry Jones believes he's some financial guru. He's a goober. Like he's top notch fool. So Cooper finds a way to a new team, and doesn't he land with what we all consider the number one or number two quarterback in the NFL on a team desperate for a number one receiver? This guy gets open. He's going to get open every time. He's replacing the aforementioned and left to Houston Stephon Diggs. I think he's going to walk right into the Stephon Diggs role. Coleman, I think, actually benefits from this, getting more open, more quality targets as the number two. So I think if you're a Coleman owner, you're not freaking out about this. You're saying, wow, what a veteran that this guy gets to learn under for the next couple of years until he retires. Hopefully they give him some sort of an extension for at least 2 years, like this year and one more. And Cooper, just like his whole entire stock in fantasy, just completely flipped.
Absolutely.
So he's a real deal. He's an absolute superhero. The mask is real. The situation is real. I have him in 2 leagues and I'm pumped.
Yeah, absolutely. If you even get into the numbers here, kind of interesting though. So Jerry Judy has more targets than anybody on the Buffalo
Yeah.
Bills receiving core, but I feel like we kind of knew that, honestly. Like, I feel like they're not passing the ball as much because they don't really
Mm-hmm.
have receivers to pass the ball to. But you made an excellent point. Mari Cooper has 53 targets. The
Wasn't
next
he like in the first 3 weeks? I think he was the number one targeter
He
or
had to be. He had
targeted.
nine in week one, eight in week two, 12 in week three. Like that's pretty ridiculous.
Nuts.
And
I'm pretty
he
sure
made
through week three they were talking about him being number
probably,
one in total targets in the
probably.
NFL, but he's just dealing with a guy who
Exactly.
cannot throw the football anymore.
And
He's
but you
done.
make a really great point that I feel like, we are talking about targets. Obviously, those are not receptions, but you don't just get targets for being bad. Targets are literally earned. You get
Mm-hmm.
those for being open, for being a guy. And I agree. I think Amari Cooper is going to be very interesting. I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna, get this threshold of wide receiver one, but I think he's someone that you can start starting with confidence in your wide receiver slot, and he is looking to be a top 24 wide receiver every single week, which is what you want. That's something that is the consistency that you are looking for. And
Yeah.
if Shakir, who has done that besides last week against the Jets, he was putting up double digit points every single week. Just think about how much better Amari Cooper is than Shakir. Just there it is. It's just, I don't know.
Bro, I think he's gonna blow the roof off.
It's
I
gonna
think
be
he's
cool.
gonna be
It's gonna
I
be
think he's gonna be
cool.
top 15 rest of the season. And I think he can even do better than that, but I'll leave it be. I will digress. We'll
Yeah.
we'll let it happen. We'll let him show everybody this week, his first week on the freaking Bills. They're just gonna target him every freaking play.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's dive into a little bit of league talk because everyone loves to talk about leagues. So we're gonna start off with some Sunday Fun Day really quick. Just kind of look at an update at the standings and probably point out a couple of teams that are kind of making a move here. So we'll kind of dive right into it. So here's the standings. A lot of the people that we expected to be there, new team IR, Berto's team, Max team in the top four, your team in top five. Uh Alexa's team is six, but these are the people who were expecting to kind of compete. So honestly, the standings are pretty much looking very accurate to what we did for the power ranking. So sounds like we know what we're doing, honestly. Um,
We
but
have our moments.
yeah, literally though. But you do like to see, ranked number 10, 9, and 8. They are 2 and 4, so they are still in playoff contention. They are literally one game away from being in the playoffs. So things are kind of looking tight here. I would obviously you felt this. Samala beat you last week.
Yeah.
That's a good upset win for him. Kind of keep on building on things like that. I do feel for Kyle and Joe's team. They started off 2-0 and now they're on a four-game losing streak. That's not something you want to see. So it's gonna be interesting to see if they are buying or they're gonna be selling players. So someone to kind of do. I did have been having some conversation with some other teams. Everybody does seem to be in kind of like a little bit of a buy mode. So the next couple weeks are definitely going to prove something for this league, honestly. But what
Yeah.
about you? Have any thoughts, comments on any team on the league?
Well, yeah, I don't understand why the internet portion of Sleeper doesn't show like the win-loss, chain. But,
But
I
I
got my phone here.
yeah,
It still blows my mind that the Bash Bros are not in the top half. Like they're coming for our heads. I know they are. 900, nearly 950 points. And that's what appears to be 40 points more than the next highest point scorers. All right. So I'm very confident that they're going to end up in the top half. They might sneak their way into the playoffs as a fifth or sixth seed, but like people who are on the fringe, like the old Rizzler and Brownie Stud Muffins, like we got to beware. There's not a lot of games that we can give up, and that's why you know me losing this week to ninth place ranked team that's really crushing me right now because every game I can separate myself from Bash Bros is just that safety net
absolutely.
until we get to the playoffs. So all of us, fourth, fifth, sixth place who are 3-3, like got to win. You got to
Yeah.
win. You got to
No-
be consistent
Nothing,
because
nothing
I
is
do not
guaranteed
think
right now.
the Bash Bros 4 losses for the Bash Bros doesn't make sense to me with the way that they're forcing points.
Yeah. I mean, I beat them this week, but I
Yeah.
believe they had the second. Yeah, they did. They had the second most points, but I had the first most points. So
Yeah, so they're just
that's a,
getting the
that's a bad beat. That's a bad
they're
beat,
getting the bad beat. That's what's happening. They are
you
getting
know?
the bad beat, and I don't understand how it's happening this consistently. But like you said, the league is pretty close. I mean, right?
It, it's
We're only
interesting.
two wins or losses from 10th to second. You know what I mean? There's only one team that kind of has like a very domineering record right now at 5-1. 4-2 is great, but it's not domineering, right? So, only being two wins in or out of the top half or bottom half, it's a good league, man. It's
Yeah,
a good
even
league.
if you look at points forced, I would say I kind of count out Samala and Joe and Kyle's team. But
Sure.
if you go to that top eight, only 100 points separates the points forced. So
Yeah,
that's
I mean, look at
right.
like Park Owls, Highland Park Owls is at 853 and I'm at 846. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a
Yeah,
fifth to eighth place differentiation. That's just
exactly.
I mean, I know that's not how the game works. The game doesn't work by forced points. It wins it's
But
by
it's a good
winning each week.
indicator. It's a good
It,
indicator.
you're not wrong.
But I agree. I think a lot of things are more balanced than I think we expected. But the standings are definitely looking like essentially what we started with
Yeah.
preseason. So we're
They're in the right order.
I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back here.
Yeah.
You know,
We did all right. They're in the right order. I wouldn't be surprised if it remains this way, but a team like Bash Bros, I can't imagine scoring that many points and still being where they are. I think they will be the most mobile team over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
for sure. All right, moving on to Farmer Brown and Friends. So we go to this league. While it loads, we love the internet. Let's look at to see where the standings are placing for this league. I know when we were having conversations about this 2 weeks ago, things were definitely a little bit changing just because of Jose's team. But do believe Jose is on a 2-game winning streak. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
There, he's got two.
Yep.
He got two there. So, kind of just reading the standings, we have Mike's team at 5-1, starting on top. Not a team that we were a big fan of. We have me at 4-2, Ben at 4-2, Noah at 4-2, Pat at 3-3, Kangley at 3-3, Mike Mastro at 3-3. A lot of 3-3 teams here. You at 3-3, Frankie Mastro at 3-3, and then we have Jose and Sean at 2-4, and then Jack sitting at 0-6, where we expected him to be, honestly.
Yeah.
But I do have to, talk about one team here that I'm really kind of impressed with. Sean's team, I felt like was some that was like a little bit more optimistic about. Someone that I kind of like read off since he was the worst team last year. But his team's producing, and I think he has some really good young pieces. And the fact that he's pulling out these wins, that's something that you want to see. They do have this high ceiling, some of his players. Caleb Williams has definitely been turning around. Jahmyr Gibbs, an awesome person to have. Zay Flowers has started to become the target in the Ravens offense. Brock Bowers, probably the tight end number one in Dynasty. Like, let's really be honest about that right there.
Yeah,
Bucky Irving taking over that backfield. These are just some good names, and these are going to be things that he's going to continue kind of building on, honestly. So I'm a fan of it, and I want to
yeah,
give it out to Sean. It's things are looking good, and
absolutely.
he wanted to do the slow process here, and he's doing it. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about
It's
you?
that cluster of 3 and 3 uh is really where the competition is going to be in this league, in my opinion. I think that the top three makes sense. I think that the top three is going to pretty much remain the top three. Um, maybe one of these teams between 4 and 9, changes it up and somehow sneaks into the top three. But I really do think the top three is going to remain. And I think, from 4 to 9, maybe 10 or 11 sneaks in there. But I think from 4 to 9, is going to be competing for that fourth, fifth, sixth spot, the second half of the top half. So,
Yeah.
um, in my opinion, 1, 2, 3 are going to remain, and then 4 through 11 are going to be competing for fourth, fifth, and sixth place. I don't think it's the records don't indicate it. I don't think it's as competitive as a league as your league. Um, but as of right now, it is pretty consistent. I mean, only Jack is really, out of the running at this point. But he kind of knew he needed to be there. He made some trades in order to put himself there. He's putting himself in a good position for 2025 and 2026. So, don't act like we're bashing you, Jack. You are on,
He knows.
the right process. You are making the right process moves.
He knows.
Sean's team's only going to keep getting better, like you said. Jose's team is it's still this kind of amalgamation of really old players, but if they can work together and get to the playoffs, then like we predicted, Jose has names that should be a playoff contending team. So maybe he sneaks his way in. My hope is that that doesn't happen because my
Yeah.
team, in my
And
opinion, my team has been underperforming a little bit. They've got a lot of injuries. So I just think that there's just this really, really dense competition right in the middle, and it's going to be an absolute tooth and nail battle to fight for that fourth, fifth, and sixth spot to make the playoffs as we go through the next 6 weeks.
yeah, it's gonna be cool. Obviously I'm even on a 2 game losing streak, so I'm just hoping the team bounces back, kind of moves forward and kind of get there. But I agree. I think these next upcoming weeks, like these next 3, 4 weeks, are really going to be telling, obviously, where it's wins are going to become wins and losses are going to become losses. So things are really just going to kind of be focusing on that. But overall, some good stuff happening in this league. Interested to see if there's going to be any trades or anything kind of like happening right now. It's kind of been quiet for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But where it's going to be interesting to see if who's going to become buyers and who's going to become sellers. So yeah.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say that. Like we're in that bend where like within the next 4 weeks or so, we're either going to get no movement or all the movement, right? Like people are going to
Yeah.
start realizing where they are. They're going to realize, hey, like I'm really not a competitor, or I am,
Yeah.
and the market's going to just start. There's going to be some crazy market movement. Definitely in your league. I'm hoping that that happens in this league as well. Not for myself, but I just think a healthy league is a trading league. So uh, both leagues are in a good spot. There's no over domineering situations, and bro, good luck to everybody out there. We're all getting after that ring.
Yes, sir. But yeah, that's kind of like what we have for today, honestly. So good talk. We love talking about players. So can't wait to see what happens in the next couple weeks in this leagues, and we're gonna keep moving forward from there. But any final words at all?
That's it, baby. Hey, we're on the clock. Another great week with us. We'll see you in 2 weeks, folks. Best of
Yes,
luck.
sir. All right. Bye bye, everybody.